The only thing that I can't change myself is my heart. And I've changed a lot of things, but I don't think we can change our heart. The reason that we need Christ is because he can change our hearts. And when our heart is changed, then we, as like God's in embryo, have the power to change the rest of our lives.
This is our third podcast, and this is one of the most exciting ones yet, man. I'm so pumped. So I got to know Terrell through a program called HXP, and so many people were just obsessed with his realness, and that was something that really stood out to me. So I'm just really excited to be able to jump into your story, Terrell, hear about you, and just learn from you, man. Today we're just gonna cook. So, dude, Terrell,
Start for it, dude.
Tell us about yourself, man. Please give us an intro into Terell Baker, Big Bro story. Oh, and can we please start with this? Guys, today is Terrell's birthday.
Oh, no way.
Is it this
Happy birthday.
And so we brought
Let's go.
Terrell some protein to just...
Oh, let's go.
Or a protein action, dude. Everyone needs the protein.
Some Terell teen.
Yeah.
Yes, dude.
Thank you, dude.
Yeah, what's today? Is it
It's 30th.
30th?
Wow.
That's a big day, baby.
Happy
Yeah.
birthday.
Yeah, we made it. Made it out of the 20s, dude.
Survived a lot.
Yeah.
Well, dude, tell us about your story, Terrell.
Yeah, dude. So it's always a funny question because I feel like there's so many aspects of like what makes a person,
Oh, yeah.
and it's like what parts are most highlighted in my mind right now are the ones that are But all that being said, I was born March 4th, 1996 in Sandy, Utah.
Let's go.
Yeah, I was raised by my mom, with the help of my grandma. So she lived with us, or we lived with her for most of my childhood. It was me and my brother, and then our mom. And yeah, I grew up, always did music growing up. I was always like the singing kid. I was also the really dramatic kid. Like I just cried about everything. My brother would get under my skin and I'd cry. That just kind of continued. I was also like really obsessed with reading growing up, which is pretty evident if you have a conversation with me. Like those are like music. I'm just like to a fault sometimes, just like a creative person in the way that I kind of see the world. And I also just love knowledge and words and communicating. And I think a lot of that came from music and reading growing up. I kind of spent a lot of time, like I grew up with like cousins. Once I hit a certain age, everyone was kind of gone. I spent a lot of time alone as a kid. And I think that was a big part of the reason, especially reading. I turned to reading a lot. So like when I post online, I talk a lot about how I think fiction is it's better self-help than self-help, because I don't know, people see stories as escapism, but for me it was and has been actually just like the ability to create like another reality in your mind, and then you can move that into real life, and like getting lessons from it. So I always have loved reading and just like pulling knowledge up. Yeah, teenage years, honestly, a lot of my 20s were rougher. There was just a lot of chaos in the home with like my mom, my brother, and neither of us had dads. Just kind of going through it. And that kind of like pulled me away, separated me to some degree. I was always like going to church. Yeah, when I was in high school, I had some struggles with like porn, and that was, yeah, I think looking back, I would call those kind of my numb years. I didn't realize it. Up until I was about like 13, I was always like a pretty like expressive, emotive, like big highs, big lows, creating kind of kid. And I was actually just thinking about this a few weeks ago. It was a period of about, it was like 3 or 4 or 5 years where there was just a lot of stuff going on that I didn't know how to deal with. And I think I just I shut down in a lot of ways. So like, that's when I like gained a lot of weight. I got a lot of bad habits, got super cynical. That was, those times, I think, not that I was doing anything, I wasn't like partying or anything crazy, but I was like just kind of slowly dying inside, in a non-dramatic way. That's the reality. Looking back, that's what was happening. I just didn't know how to deal with it. I was kind of alone in it. Yeah, when I went to high school, I ended up going to a different high school than my brother went to. He got into some ruckus where he was, and that's fine. But yeah, I just had this gut feeling that I shouldn't go to that high school. And so I ended up going to a different one. I went to Bingham. I just had a lot of really great friends there. I had a bishop who had been my scout leader when I was starting at 11, just this like burly bear of a man. I remember like when we first moved into the ward, he like walked in and kind of like cornered me. And I was 11, but I'm like a small guy now, but I was like this tall, you know, and this man's like, who are you? And I was like, I'm Terrell. He's like, you're coming ice caving. I was like, okay. So we went ice caving. But then he just like took me under his wing for like 7-8 years. So he was my scout leader for a long time. We went on like camping trips, backpacking, Klondikes. Like he had a lot of kids, but he would just take time out and like just go for walks with me. And like I didn't realize it, you know, quite what he was doing. And then I was in the bishopric, and then he became the bishop. And like the last couple years when I decided I was going to go on a mission, he was the bishop there. And it was the same thing. Like he'd just call me and be like, hey, just finished dinner, come on a walk with me. You know, and he'd just talk. And he would like, there were a few times he like laid into me, like he dropped some sauce on me. A few times we like had a conversation. I like walked out mad. But he was willing to say things to me that no one else had been. And so anyway, that was kind of the story. Went on a mission to the Philippines.
Oh, no way. Saan ba?
Sa Naga.
Ay, ganun. Galing.
Ikaw, saan?
Sa Antipolo.
That's sick.
Yeah.
Yeah. Good old Naga.
Yeah.
And yeah, that was wildly transformational. I was like I was a messy kid. I was like the cliche, like I was kind of the cliche, like mama's boy, fatherless kid. Like I was just a mess. I didn't like authority. I still don't like authority very much. But yeah, I went on the mission, and I remember I spent the first like month and a half. Oh, and by the way, when I came out of the MTC, I was like 205. Like I couldn't do 5 push-ups. I was chunker. And it was just kind of like, felt like the physical manifestation of things that had been happening inside, you know? And so anyway, I got out there, first like month and a half, I was kind of the same, like, I was pretty snarky to my companion. We didn't get along super well. I would, we would get into it. I like was getting up later, wouldn't like make my bed, like I wasn't very clean. But I was like, there was a piece of me that was like trying, like I was there, you know, and I was like, I'm going to stay. But I was like, I've always had like a tear between my mind and my heart. Not as much now. I think I've learned to reconcile them a lot better than I once did. But especially when I was younger, because I've always like, my mind has always been my best gift and my worst enemy. And so that like kind of started to come to odds, and I was like, wait, do I actually like believe in God? And like, what does that look like for me? And, you know, and I kind of started to really dive into it, as I'm sure you've experienced. And then I had this moment, we were in a training. I like remember the stupid little dingy room. It was like mid-training with the mission president. They were talking about something, and I was talking about, they were talking about exercise. And I just gave him like an eye roll. I was like, oh yeah, you know, like whatever. Like I don't think I put it on my face, but it was the same like snarky nonsense response. It was honestly a cope response, but I wouldn't have listened to that at the time. Which I think God knew, because my mission president's wife, who's just such a sweetheart, Sharon Reeder, that's her name.
Shout out Sharon Reeder.
Yeah. And Barry. They're the best. She was like, yeah, you know, it only says 30 minutes, but it's really about the principle of like how we're able to serve you guys and people and each other. And she's like, so we get up 15 minutes earlier so we can do a little extra, so we can really take care of ourselves because we want to, because we think it's worth it. And I had this thought response that was like snarky, and then as I started to have it, I just like got like slapped, and it felt like a slap in the face, and then I was just like gone from the room. It sounds really dramatic, but I don't have another way to describe it. It was like God pulled me from the room and like just gave me this like crystal clear vision of myself as I was. Like just pulled the blinders. He's like, this is what actually is going on here. These are your habits. These are like your vices. This is all the things.
He gave you like your own like baseball card.
Yeah. And
You
it
just
was
stared
not
at
good. It was like horribly painful. And then like the same time, and I say same time, I don't know how that, I don't know. I was gone for a minute. I still don't know. I'm sure no one in the room knows what was going on, but I was gone for a minute. But then at the same time, he gave me like this glimpse of what it could be and like who I could be and how I could be. I like kind of like came back to, and I was like, okay, I'll do it. And so one of the missionaries had the insanity videos like copied onto a disc or a hard drive or an SD card or something. So I'd watch those on the little play, the player, like or maybe they didn't have it when you were there. This little like
I know exactly what you're talking about.
DVD player
like
thing
this
you
big,
like fold out and you like stick it in there. I didn't start like that next morning I started doing the insanity videos, and I was like, because it was that moment where I was like, if I don't change after he gives me this, I'm never going to, and I'm going to be stuck like this forever, and I'm going to be miserable my whole life, and I'm going to die, and I'm going to feel like I wasted my potential. And so I kind of just made a promise to God in that moment that I was going to, and that I would keep trying. So anyway, I started the insanity videos, lost like 60 pounds that year.
Jesus.
Like went in and I just slowly started like changing habits. I was like, I'm gonna start making my bed, and then I did, and I was like, oh, that feels nice, and then I had this push to like, you need to read like the Book of Mormon and the Bible every day. That you just need to do it. And I made some like personal promises to God in those months, like when that was all starting, and I was like, I'm just going to do this forever, and you have my promise that I will do that. I just need you to help me become that, so that and at that time it wasn't even like so I can help everyone else, although I think looking back, I think he had some interest in being able to help me to use my gifts to help others, but at the time I was like, just save me from myself, please. And I was like, I'll do the things. You have my promise that I will do them, and I'll never quit. So anyway, I went there and came back and went to school, did a music degree, and kept doing the things. And as I came back, it was just like kind of figuring out how to integrate everything into real life, And so that was 10 years ago now, and I came back, and almost 10 years. And yeah, from there it's just been like figuring out my fitness. And 2020 I got really sick, so then I like had this deep dive into like holistic health, which is when I actually started posting online. I built like a health page, and it was like gut health, and then I dove into like fitness, and then it was almost like when I opened a certain door, then it would let me open another door. And when I got past like basic fitness, the basic like the holistic health, when I got like my health foundation down, then it was like, all right, now time to deal with your demons. And I like woke that up, and then that was like another 3 years, 4 years, whatever, of dealing with that. And so it's just been this journey of I like the idea of like becoming who I actually am rather than becoming someone different, getting rid of the things in the way, like acorn to the oak, whatever you want to call it. And so that's been like 10 years. But yeah, it all kind of started with that moment in the Philippines, and now I just work and I do things that I enjoy with people that I enjoy, and there's a lot that I'm still trying to build, and I still very much, my nature is that I have very high highs and very low lows. I think that's kind of how I'll always be, but I have learned how to find joy in life again, which I lost for a long time. And yeah, so especially today, I've just kind of been sitting with a lot of gratitude, just kind of what I said earlier, like to God for saving me from myself, and giving me a life that it's like, it's simple, but helping me to become someone and giving me a life where I can find joy, which I think is the reason we're here, right? So, long-winded. Sorry, but that's the story.
Yeah, that's awesome. I love it. I just had a couple, or just like one question with that, because sometimes it is hard when you are lost and maybe you don't realize it yet, because you mentioned earlier too, like it was almost like numb years, and so you kind of slowly got lost. What would you say, and then of course found, right? What would you say to someone that's like in those lost stages where they can't see it like you saw, because the Holy Ghost and Heavenly Father helped you see what you could become when you were found? What would you say to somebody who's in that lost state, but they haven't quite seen that vision of who they can be yet?
You know, it sounds kind of trite. I think I would just really, this is not what I would have said 5 years ago or 10 years ago or even a year ago probably, but I think that I would just really try to love them where they were, like with everything that I had, regardless of where they were or what they were doing, because I think that's what did it for me, you know. And realistically, there's nothing that you could say to change someone or make them change. Like, it has to be an internal change. You have to choose to give your heart to God. And so to me, it's like, I want to become the kind of man that becomes aspirational, so that like people just being around me feel like they want to do more and be more. But then too, it's just like, how viciously can I love you right where you are? You know, and maybe that's not a good answer, but that's the first thing that comes to mind.
I love it. Yeah. Oh, I do.
I'd love to jump into something. You know, that term viciously loving, that is awesome. I love that. I've never heard viciously love. Like, find them exactly that, right where they're at, and then find them. And, you know, what was your bishop's name?
Mike Bruff.
Shout out Mike Bruff.
He's a G.
What a G, dude. Dude, 8 years of the ministering. Like, that's ministering at its core. And then also just like, I mean, talk about big bro. Mike Bruff was big bro.
Oh, he sure was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so, like, he hey, let's go on a walk. Well, it's interesting. It's like, he had this influence to where you said earlier, like, he said things to me that nobody would say.
Or could say.
That's exactly where I was going to go. Yeah. I mean, he had the rapport because you knew that he loved you.
Yeah.
And then he could be like, bro, let's talk. We're going on a walk. And you're like, oh, freak. And you're like, you know,
dude.
yeah.
There were a few times I was like,
yeah, come on. So I just think that that's powerful. It's like your answer was also in your story.
yeah.
Yeah. You know, what you would do to someone is what was done to you.
I think it's the only way that works.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's powerful. I want to know when you switched to start. You're fighting your demons, and when did you become big bro, right? So you were big broed, and where did this big broing from you start, right? Because you're like, I started a holistic page, and then I met you through you being a trip leader, dude.
Yeah.
Yeah, I met you through the band, through my wife, right?
Yeah.
So you were out there serving, and I knew Terrell through that, but like when did that shift happen, right? There was a cynical shift to an outward shift, right?
Yeah.
And cynical, using your own terms, like
it's perfectly descriptive.
Okay. I don't want to like just throw.
No, dude, sauce me, man. That's perfectly descriptive.
But I feel like that's also relatable to all of us. It's like when we don't want to hear something, or when there's like, at the end of the day, it's ego. For me, at least, you know, it's an ego speaking. And
who's this guy to say this to me?
Who's that guy to, yeah. And I'm just not in a place to, like, yeah, I know what I'm doing. Like, I don't need that. I don't need some guy to put on a facade, and then my image of the outward people. Like, if somebody's giving me love, I'm like, yeah, you're just doing this or whatever. You're just, you know. But when did this shift? Like, there was a heart shift and a mind shift that shifted, right?
Yeah.
To say, I'm gonna start putting this out there. This needs to get out there.
I mean, I've always been drawn toward the boys that are struggling. I think just because of like my own experience and my brother, and we've just kind of had to figure it out. Like he has 3 kids now, and we've both come just leagues from where we were, you know? And so I think because of that, I've always had an affinity toward like helping the boys as much as I can. But I think there is something to be said of when you are trapped in your own patterns and your own pain, you have no choice but to be selfish. Everything you do will always, like, even if people don't want to admit it, like everything you do is always geared toward numbing or dealing with the pain that you have. So like until you resolve it for yourself, you can't actually be selfless, you know? And so I don't know that there was any one moment when I was, like I said, there's been this like pairing between like the creative in me and at the risk of sounding overly romanticizing it, like the boy that kind of figured out how to be a man, and then the knowledge side of things that was just like the actual principles you have to learn, you know. And so when I first started creating online, I just felt like I wanted to share, but it was like sharing health stuff, you know, and it really sucked. It's kind of funny looking back at that stuff. It's like, bro. Oh, but at one point I remember like driving out like by the lake. I was having kind of a low day and just like journaling about it. And I think that was the day that I realized, I was like, man, I actually like the reason I'm going to do that. It was still, there was a part of it that was still selfish. Like I need to feel like I'm good enough. And that's why I'm making this, which I think has since gone away. But I realized that the big motivation was like, man, I just really want to help the boys. And so then on that page for a while, it was like just health stuff, but it just didn't feel right. So I was like, it's not just this. And the part of that is because when I kind of resolved that, then I realized that I had these other like demons lurking that I needed to reconcile. So that was kind of where it started. And then in the last few years, especially, like some of it was like conversations that I'd had, and but some of it was just this feeling like, if I exist, there are so many others. And it's like, I mean, like realistically, like there are boys in inner cities that grow up without dads, and they have none of the good things that I had. And there are boys here that like grow up with like dads that are just basically not there, or like if they are there emotionally, they're not, you know what I mean? Like I think we're just growing up in a generation of boys that lack an arm around the shoulder. And so I think that was kind of where I realized that that's what I wanted it to be. And since then it's just been like iterating, like how can I help save the boys that want to be saved? Like how can I help them kind of escape themselves in the same way that God helped me to do it, you know? So that was kind of where it started, and since then it's just kind of been the same thing, like iterating, like how do I do this, how do I figure, and it still is, you know, to some degree. Yeah, so that's where it started and just has kind of grown from there.
Yeah, I think it's really interesting how like in our life there are experiences that obviously lead us to the people that we are, and then like you said, we want to help those people even more because we did experience that ourselves.
Right.
How do you help those people, those boys that need help?
It's a good question. It's one that I ask myself every day. I think it kind of goes back to what we were saying earlier, which is, one, I think we help the world the most by becoming the best version of ourselves that we can. Because, and the reason for that is because you can't change anyone. Like, you know, like, yeah. I'm sure you try it. You can't. It doesn't matter how many things you say to someone, you can't change anyone. And actually, the harder you push to change people before they're ready, or if they don't want to, the less likely they are to. And so, in my mind, like, my honest goal is like, for myself, because I want a life that I enjoy, but I already enjoy my life, honestly. Yeah. It's like, just become just disgustingly aspirational in every aspect of my life. And then when I interact, whether it's stories or ideas, like try to inspire them to feel like a little bit of the glimpse of what it would be like to be that like version of themselves. Because I'm kind of convinced that we all have a spark in us of this feeling of like the version of ourselves we could be. I think everyone does, but especially men. Like I think we all have that feeling inside, and I think that's why so many guys struggle with like not good enough, because I think that's like the devil taking something good and turning it into something bad. But I think the heart of it is like, no, I see this potential, like, and God keeps that in us. And so it's like whatever I can do to kind of like poke that bear, you know, like whatever, like fan that spark.
Mm-hmm.
And so I don't know, sometimes it's stories, or some of it is just like, here's this thing that I'm working on, or here's this thing that I learned. But I think trying to become aspirational myself, like really honestly try to love people, and like that's something I pray for every day, is like, help me to love people better. And then try to inspire like that spark. And then after that, after they've decided they want to, it's like, okay, here's some things you could do. But none of this stuff, like the fitness and the health and the mindset hacks, and it doesn't matter until you deal with this. Like it really doesn't. Until like your heart is honestly in a place that you're going to do it, this doesn't matter, you know? So yeah, that's, this is like the what, but the how, I think for me is like, how can I bring them to God so that he can change their hearts? And then once they have that, come to me.
Yeah.
You know,
that's awesome.
I can help you take a couple steps.
I have a question about that. So we all being returned missionaries know that Christ is a solution. We having been people who have nurtured that as well, continually know that. It's not a dead faith. And so where's Jesus in this whole thing? And I ask this because sometimes for me, what happens is when I love somebody, I forget that that's actually a stem of Christ. But what does that look like to you? Like, where you just told us your story, okay? You're helping people. Where's Jesus in this whole thing?
Yeah, I think I've actually thought an absurd amount about this, because I think the dichotomy, at least for me, between has always been hard to find. Like, what do I need to do and what does God do, you know? And I actually don't think it's like a line like that. I think it's a constant intertwining. That being said, I think it seems to me that the only thing, and I'm open to being wrong about this, but it seems to me that the only thing that I can't change myself is my heart. And I say that after like a decade now of, I guess, more actively learning and growing, like changing my mindset, learning my patterns. Like I've dove into like gut health, I've dove into fitness, I've dove into nutrition, I've dove into psychology, like attachments, like a lot of the things, and I've changed a lot of things. But I don't think we can change our heart. I'm actually convinced of it. And I think yeah, Christ can give us extra strength on the days that we need it, for sure. But I think the reason that we need Christ is because he can change our hearts. And when our heart is changed, then we, as like God's an embryo, have the power to change the rest of our lives. Again, I'm open to being wrong about that. That's what it seems like to me. So anytime, that's why I kind of go back. It's like, I almost don't even care to give someone like fitness advice until they like have a piece of a vision in their mind of them as like a stronger, like healthier version. Because it's like, what does it matter if you don't believe it? Or like, I don't care to like, not that I would give relationship advice actually, but like give any kind of like, to like say to 20-year-old me who I could give advice to, I wouldn't care to until I could like convince him to believe that he was worth the kind of woman that he wanted. You know what I mean? So like, and that feels like that's where Christ exists, is like helping us heal the broken parts of our heart and soul so that we can then take that belief and use it change the rest of our lives.
That's powerful.
Those are some nuggets.
Awesome.
Yeah, I got some big takeaways from that. I'm curious if you have any questions that we want to leave Terrell with. Any other things that you want to ask?
In my mind, nothing, no.
Yeah, I just want to say we could just converse for hours. Also, finding out that you live close is phenomenal. So
We do.
you better come over to dinner.
Saratoga Wausau, bro.
Yeah, Saratoga. Yeah, that's right. That's right. That's where I'm going. So let's go. So I just want to say, Terrell, first off, it's a gift to have you. It really is, because the experiences that you have had and that you're sharing affect us and build us, right? And I love your perspective, number one, on, like, my biggest takeaway is Christ. Where's Christ in this? Like, isn't that, for me, that's just the truest thing ever, that he changes our hearts. And I just want to say thank you for giving that gift, that perspective to us today. Where can people find you?
Oh, dude, just the Instawebs. I post Instagram, TikTok, YouTube. It's just Terell T. Baker.
Big bro.
Yeah, big bro account.
That's right.
Awesome.
Guys, we just want to leave an invitation for anybody. And in fact, do you have any invitations that you'd like to add?
Yeah, I guess for me, kind of an invitation I took away from this is, like, for me too, I'm going to do this too. Like, assess my heart. See where my heart is, and see where my desires are in becoming the person that God wants me to become. And then taking that to God and saying, in sincere prayer, I think this is one step I can do. I know I can do, and taking it to prayer and saying, help me change my heart today.
Yeah. Guys, we love you. Thank you so much for following. This is just powerful. And, like, the feeling in this room is electric. So just so grateful for you, Terrell, for being here. And guys, we'll stay tuned for all the following stuff, but we appreciate you. Love you guys.